Hello Wargames, it's me Callum from Tabletop Banter, and in today's video we are going to take a look at the word bearers. So I thought a great way of introducing the 30k Legion that I've chosen to collect would be to have a little look at their lore and have a little look at the way I want to build them up and where this first step is going to take me. So let's take a look at a little bit of their lore. So as you know, I pick an army based on the fluff, and when I read into a bit of the word bearers, I just thought they were so cool. So they are the 17th Legion of the Space Marines. They were pretty much the first traitor legion, and in fact they are the only legion in 30k Horus Heresy, the game, the tabletop game, that you cannot be loyalist with. The only way you can play them is as a traitor. Now they are led by their Primarch Lorgar, who is in the 40k fluff, a demon prince, and back in the day, in 30k, he was very much a scholar, very much led by religion and finding the truth. And I think that's kind of what really drew me to them. It wasn't not so much the religion bit, but the hunt for the truth, even though it's not what they are necessarily spoon-fed by the Emperor. Although I do love myself a little bit of the Emperor, I think that kind of like quest for the actual answers is kind of inspiring. I quite like that. So in order to find out those answers, Lorgar went on his pilgrimage. It's Lorgar's pilgrimage. It's quite key in the Horus Heresy timeline. And basically he went out to try and find out a little bit more about what was going on, about these visions he'd been having when he was a child, when he was having nightmares and stuff like that. And he went on a pilgrimage to basically try and get in touch with, I don't know if that's the right phrase, the Chaos Gods. He ended up on a planet called Cadia. It was very nomad-like, you know, they weren't a developed race, they were living in caves. And on this planet they basically worshipped corn, I believe. Now I've read The First Heretic, which was a fantastic word bearers book by Aaron Dembski-Bowden, and you should go and have a look at that, because if you're interested in some of the 30k fluff, because it really gives you this beautiful overview of where it all started, basically, of sorts. I mean, where it started for a Primarch initially becoming a traitor, effectively. Now, excuse me, sorry, I've got a bit of a cold, so I do apologise if I cough or splutter at any point in this video. Anyway, as I was saying, they went on this pilgrimage, and another thing that happened, a big thing that happened, was the birth of the Galvabak, or the Galvorbak. Now they are effectively the first ever possessed Chaos Space Marines. I think the story behind them, and in particular Argol Tal, who is the protagonist of the First Heretic book, is just fantastic. I absolutely loved it. Basically, Lorgar is in contact with the Chaos Gods on Cadia, and he gives up his blessed sons, the chapter of the serrated sons, and he gives a few of them over to Chaos. Basically, sends them off on a little journey to become more, and they do become these possessed Marines. Now that possession comes in various different ways. There is obviously the physical changes, like mutations and stuff like that, chaos mutations, which do set in on quite a few of them. Some of them go blind, some of their heads mold into their helmets and stuff like that. It's all very different depending on who it is. Some grow these massive talons instead of arms. But the big one about Argol Tal is it's more of a mental mutation. So he has an alter ego, a demon personality called Ingathal or Ithingal. I can't quite remember how it's pronounced. And what effectively happens is he's now got a dual personality and a conflict within him, where this demon speaks to him, and it changes who he is. It also makes him a lot more, well, it makes him stronger for a start, physically stronger, physically faster, but it takes away that kind of preciseness that he had before. And I really wanted to capture his character in my 30k Legion, in particular sort of the whole theme I'm going with. Now, fast forward a little bit after the pilgrimage, they are heavily involved in Istvan V, the drop site massacre. They are one of the traitor legions that beams down and traps the Raven Guard in particular. The Galvorbak absolutely munching through a bunch of the Raven Guard Marines. And this is where we really see the first taste of Lorgar in battle. And if I'm honest, it's quite pitiful. He's always been more of a scholar than he has a warrior. He's very much pen is mightier than the sword kind of guy. And when it comes down to it, And Korax, the Primarch of the Raven Guard, is mincing through his Gal Vorbak. He becomes really enraged, and he chases over there and tries to beat the crap out of him with, I think it's the Illuminator, his massive mace made by Ferrus Manus. And this is where we see that first taste of how crap he is in combat, because Korax makes him his bitch, effectively, and is one swipe away from killing him. And then Primarch of the Night Lords, the Night Haunter himself, whose name escaped, Conrad Kurz, that's the one. He jumps in the last second and saves Lorgar. But we see the kind of the reasoning behind the word bearers really shine through there. So as you all know, every legion has their own trait, and the one thing about the word bearers is their search for the truth. They're effectively scholars over warriors, and when they would try and take over a planet, they would try and reform it as opposed to burn it to the ground, which was, well, how they originally were. And then they were absolutely berated by the Emperor for this, and in fact they were made a laughing stock by the Ultramarines, which is why they have an eternal hatred for them. And basically Guilliman sort of showed up Lorgar, and then they just started raising planets, as in R-A-Z-E, and just burning everything to the ground out of spite and rage and disappointment in themselves. So fluff-wise, they're really interesting, they're really deep. They also, a slightly different sort of fact, so during the Great Crusade, before they found Lorgar, they were actually the only legion to have a name as opposed to a number. So normally it was just like the 5th Legion or the 6th Legion, but they had a name. So before they became the word bearers, they were the Imperial Heralds, like I said, the only named legion before they got their Primarch. And they had a very specific role. They were really, really focused to the Imperial doctrine, you know, the law set out by the Emperor. And what would happen is they would basically take over planets, and they were really, really dead set on compliance. One of the things they had was a herald, and that was one of their units. And I thought this was really cool when I was reading it, so I thought I'd share it with you. Even though it's not specifically word bearers, it's kind of like shows you the direction they are and the way they go. So the herald would go down to the planet on his own, confront the leader of the planet and say, "You're doing it all wrong. Comply with the Emperor or be damned." And then they would say either yes or no, screw you. And then the herald basically would call down the rest of the army, but in the meantime would try and kill as many of them as he could. So there were times when he was literally covered in hundreds of bodies trying to fight his way out. It was a role that was revered, obviously. It's kind of cool, you know, you're the herald, but at the same time your lifespan's probably not great because you're going to be fighting off literally armies of people by yourself. But that kind of fluff thing was super cool, and obviously that was during the Great Crusade. We're now a little bit further on in the Horus Heresy, and like I said, in Istvan V they were key. Excuse me. And also obviously there was the betrayal at Kauth, which was getting revenge on the Ultramarines. And there are loads and loads of characters. I'm going to do a little character series of videos, I think, when I step in with other ones. But I wanted to give you an introduction to the fluff before I go over my list, which we will do right now. So what better way of introducing my list than obviously that little bit of preamble about why I love the word bearers. They're a little bit of story that just makes them super cool. Now, with the list, what I've decided to do is encompass a lot of the things I read from the First Heretic and go from there. So what I've done at the moment is built up to just under 2,000 points. I've got to get another unit of Terminators in just because that will take me to 2,000, and then I'm going to get Lorgar because it's hard not to. He's kind of cool. He's actually, I would say, the weakest Primarch of the lot, but I think he's cool, and the model is alright, so I have to buy him, really. So let's start with HQ choices. Praetor, Argyle Tal, kitted out to the max. He's 240 points in my list. He's got like a jump pack, melter bombs, burning the burning law, which is basically a level 1 psyker upgrade. All sorts of stuff like that. He's very expensive. And I've also got a chaplain, who is my chaplain Zaphen, and he is another character from the First Heretic. Again, gave him the lore upgrade, so he was a level 1 psyker. And I've tried to kind of build up what I feel he was from the book. As for the actual way I'm running him in the Pride of the Legion Rite of War. So I'm taking 3 3 squads of veteran tacticals, all with rhinos, and 2 squads of cataphracti terminators as my troop choices, which is kind of cool that they're troop choices in Pride of the Legion. I'm a big fan of that, and I've got enough of them to fill out that minimum requirement. Excuse me. So then next we have a unit of Galva back. Now I've converted those up from the Chosen in the Dark Vengeance box set, though I've done a bit of conversion work, clipping off some bits and stuff and adding some tentacles here and there, and I've also taken away pretty much all their guns because the Galva back just went in sort of with their possessions as opposed to with their guns. So I've got the Galva back in my elite slot, and joining them will be an apothecary. Reason was because I kind of felt like that would be nasty. Going forward from there, obviously there's Lorgar as well, and a Contemptor Dreadnought, who I have done a bit of reading of the fluff again, and I'll probably go over this in another video when I talk about the Dark Council. Yeah, he's a named character Dreadnought, though he doesn't have any stats, so he's just a regular Contemptor as far as the rules go. So what we're looking at is basically 30 tacticals, 10 Terminators, the Galva back, an Apothecary, a Chaplain, a Praetor, a Dreadnought, and just to cap it off, a Primarch. Now that takes me to about 2,500 points, which is pretty impressive given that it's just, well, all come around so fast. I've already got 2,000 points, minus 5 Terminators, so a little bit less. And hopefully, sometime in January, I will be able to pick up Lorgar, and then I'll have all the models I need. I'll just be building them up, painting them, and you'll get to see this progression of an army that is based on a book. In terms of a playstyle, it's pretty aggressive. With Word Bearers, you're getting sort of bonuses to sweeping advance, bonuses to rolling 3d6 on your leadership, stuff like that. With Lorgar on the table, everyone can use his leadership. There's a little bit of psychic drizzled in for some flavour, and then but a lot of it is going to be very much you're moving up the board and you're trying to take control of the game. And the way I like to play the game is table control and a bit of speed, so probably deep strike your Terminators, drive up with the Rhinos, get the Dreadnought moving, and then I have my 1,200 point unit, which is a bit stupid in a lot of respects, but I could not resist because of the fluff. And it's going to be the Galva back and Apothecary, Zaphen, Argyltal, and Lorgar, all just running up the middle of the board. Really, really crap tactical decision, but I could not think of anything cooler from a fluff standpoint, and as you all know, I sacrifice a lot of the competitive edges for fluff, and so I have stuck to my guns, so to speak, and done that again. So thank you ever so much for watching this video. I do hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave those likes and comments below. If there's anything specific you want me to cover in terms of the Word Bearers lore or fluff, I would absolutely love to do that. It's something I want to invest a little bit more in terms of these videos. You know, starting the video with a slice of lore and then ending with how that impacts my army and stuff like that. That's something I'm keen on doing. So if you want to find out anything else, you know, talk about specific units, specific characters, like I said, I will be hopefully doing one on the Dark Council in the future because that's kind of cool, and we'll go from there really. But thank you ever so much for watching. Apologies for the cold. I do hope you've enjoyed this video, and in the meantime, don't forget, have fun.